Hello, this is Brad Wild, and we're back in the 210. That was my last video, but we are now just east of the Sierra Nevadas in California, or maybe we're in Nevada, I don't know. We'll take a look at the map and see. But the purpose of this video is to take a look at the SimCoders Reality Pack that comes for the Centurion and how it affects your prep and flying of the airplane. Here's how it looks in xplane.org's store. These are all the wonderful things that it does or claims to do. All of them are not immediately obvious even as you fly the airplane, but it definitely adds a bit of realism to the startup of the airplane. You have to do it right, or it simply won't start. You have to do a walk around, you have to remove the chocks and ties by manually, so to speak, actually clicking a button. But apparently stunning sounds and just a host of realistic things that, again, you might not recognize, but are lying underneath the hood, so to speak, and adding realism and immersion for this airplane. So what I'm going to do, I think, is take a little ride with the Reality Pack installed and then do one without it, just to show you the difference. Before climbing in the airplane, let's just take a look at the map. So it looks like we are indeed still in California. So there's a little airport here called Lee Vining, and we're going to fly over to Bryant. Where is this in relationship to anything else? We're well south of Lake Tahoe and Reno, and just a little bit to the northwest of Bishop, which is just east of the Sierra Nevadas, and that's what you have here. Yosemite's a little bit further south, but in this range. So again, just a short flight, but interesting scenery, at least I think. So let's take a look at SimCoders Reality Pack for the Cessna 210. You don't see it now, but if you mouse over, you'll get a series of options here. This is your checklist. You can do your weight and balance here. Your walk around. You can get a tow. The plugin is controlled, installed under the plugins drop down, and it's got its own slot here, and you can set your preferences, and I've done so here. I've turned off some of the things that maybe are a little too immersive for me, like airplane damages and hypoxia effect, and I do want to use US, and yeah, it's just something that you'll need to experiment. I'm not going to go through all of them. If it's not installed, you'll see a place where you can go ahead and enable the package, and you have to type in your serial number, you know the drill. One of the things that kind of irritates me about X-Plane is that you do have to type in manually most licenses and serial numbers for planes that you're flying and utilities you're using. It'd be nice just to be able to cut and paste it, because as you know, some of those serial numbers are long. Alright, I'm whining now. So let's start with our walk around. It does set the view for you and gives you a little diagram of the route you're going to take around the airplane. The only thing that should be on is your master switch, and your fuel is supposed to be set. Now I'm unable to change the view to check that, but this airplane, as I pointed out last time, comes with the fuel valve closed. So it's not open, and you can't get to it with this thing up like that. I've got a couple of keys that are set to do it, and they've been deactivated. So you just click the next button, and you're basically just making sure everything is as it should be, and you can actually make sure the elevator is free. And you can do the same thing with the rudder. And then you can toggle the tie down. And you just keep moving around the plane like this. Check the aileron. And remove the tie down. I haven't figured out if you can actually check the fuel. Nothing seems to work. But it just says that there's no water contamination. And we'll remove the chocks. Tire pressure looks good. And we'll toggle the cover. Again, I don't know how to check the oil, but it does show that we've got plenty. Again, just checking our nose gear. And fuel, and whoops, forgot the chocks. We got a pitot tube cover to remove, and then the tie down. Check that aileron, left wing, and back in the airplane. With the walk around complete, couple things we need to do before we crank up the engine. So flip our fuel switch on. Got it on the left tank for no particular reason. And then we want to kind of, for want of a better word, prime the pump. So I'm going to flip on my auxiliary fuel pump, and so we start by mixture rich, make sure our prop is high, and then we have our throttle full forward. Then we turn on our fuel pump, and notice fuel flow. We want to get to at least 60 pounds per hour. Not quite sure what all that means, but once we've done that, we can turn off our fuel pump. Let's back up our throttle. Make sure our beacon is on, maybe our nav light, and we'll go ahead and clear prop. Make sure no one's around, and then we can go ahead and gauge our starter. Now we'll get an error message if we don't run our RPM up a little bit and lean the mixture. We don't want to foul our plugs. So that's one of the bits of realism this pack brings. We're not really going to use our radios, but we'll get them turned on, and it doesn't hurt to have transponder. And we'll add a notch of flaps and begin taxiing to the runway. Now, one of the things that's painful about this airplane, or the Reality Pack, is that you cannot use your joystick or your yoke to steer the airplane. Notice that I'm able to move the ailerons and rudder, but the nose wheel is not moving. So they have it set up so that you're using differential braking, which means you're using the toe brakes. Since I don't have rudder pedals, or toe brakes for that matter, I've set up a couple of keys on my keyboard to control the left and right brakes, because that's how you steer it. It seems a little antiquated, actually, but I guess it's just how small airplanes are. I flew 172s, 152s, 182s, and I don't remember having the same issues. I was able to use my rudder pedals to some degree for control, but I of course do remember using differential braking for those tight turns. So I'll show you what I mean, and don't laugh. So I released the brake, and I'm standing on my left brake here, which doesn't seem to be doing anything. So yeah. So I'm kind of stomping it, as it were. And again, maybe that's realistic, but it's certainly kind of jerky, as you can see. So I'm tapping both left and right brakes. Now stomping that left brake over and over again. I think it helps have a little power. Whoa. Alright, I will get it down to the end of the runway and get it turned around. How's that? Alright, here we are at the end of runway 15. I'm glad you did not see me taxiing. I ended up in the grass. But we're here. So mixture rich again, and we're gonna do our engine check, our engine run up. So we take it up to 1700 RPM. And we'll check our prop first. We want to see a drop. Yep, we did see a drop. And now what about the magnetos? We want to see a drop of about no more than 100. It's not all that realistic. From what I recall, in a real airplane, you're going to hear a little bit more of a difference in the sound. Alright, let's get our landing lights strobe. Get our yoke back. And I'm hoping that I can get down the runway using the brakes, and maybe as we pick up speed, some aileron will help us out. So release the brakes. Ooh. Again, well, let's just get it off the ground. You can rotate about 70 in this airplane. And gear up. And flaps up. And we can come back on our prop to 2500 for our climb, and then drop our manifold pressure. Whoops, a little too much for our climb. Don't want it to be redlined. And begin our turn. So a little sloppy, but got it off the ground. Probably don't need my checklist anymore. And we'll head on over to Bryant. But I think you've seen the advantages or disadvantages, as it may be, of the reality packs. So let's just jump back in after disabling it and just go with the default X-plane behavior for the Cessna 210. Alright, back in the 210, this time without the reality pack, just standard X-plane behavior. But it is Carenado, so we do have static elements that we can remove. And of course you could do a walk around if you wanted, but you don't have the advantage of being able to actually move the aileron or rudder like you would in a normal walk around. So let's just climb right in, and my menu over here on the left is gone, but we can do similar things that we did with the reality pack. It's just that we won't have as dire consequences. So let me turn on our fuel. And master switch. And let's see if we can't get the same priming of the fuel line the same. Now it's not getting above 60, it's more like 50. And I know that the owner's manual does say it should be at least 60. So not quite as realistic as it is with the reality pack. So we'll turn on our beacon and just clear our prop, make sure no one's around, and maybe just crack it a hair and go ahead and start our engine. Nice rumble. I don't find anything offensive about that engine sound, and it sounds pretty much as it does with the other aircraft. Radio's on. Again, we're not going to be using them. Notch of flaps, taxi light. And now I have the use of my joystick. Turn my nose wheel. You can see how I like that. I suppose if I had the rudder pedals it might make a difference, but I don't. Maybe that's going to be my next hardware purchase. I don't know if my wife will understand that, but alright, I won't bore you with the taxi, so just join me once I get turned around at the end of the runway, though do note the windsock. Wind is still out of the south, which is why I've got to go down to the other end of the runway. Alright, that was a lot easier getting down to the end of this runway. So let's do our run up nose into the wind. Get our mixture back to full rich. And we're going to run, let me hide our yoke here. We're going to run up our throttle to 1700 RPMs. It's close enough. We do have suction, and we'll check our prop. That works. And now our magnetos. A slight drop, back to both, now all the way over to right. Small dip, and back to both, and power back down. While we're here, check the flap, looks good. Strobe and landing light. We can put our yoke back. And we are ready to go. Let me just turn on my transponder. Not that a lot of traffic out here. All right, now the tricky part. X-plane P factor. It's a little bit exaggerated. Let's see if I can do this. Slowly apply my throttle, and again, got all kinds of problems. So that didn't work. I tried everything to keep it on the runway. Now the gear is going up, but because I have flaps down, I get that annoying sound. That's one nice thing the Reality Pack took care of. I don't know why Carenado has that buzzer for your flaps. Very annoying. So, how does it sound, folks? Sounds okay, doesn't it? A little windy up here. By the way, I turned on one notch of anti-aliasing and it really smoothed out the sawtoothing there on the dashboard where it meets the sky. And it didn't, my frame rates didn't take much of a hit at all, so that's good. All right, well that completes my demo. Apologies for that takeoff. If somebody can tell me how to fix that. I suppose if I had rudder pedals I could probably do better, so apologies. By the way, I forgot to lower my RPM on the prop, and also you want to drop your manifold pressure so you're not full tilt. Got quite a fuel flow there, but manifold pressure about 30 and RPMs about 2500 during the climb. So please let me know what your comments are, and if there's anything else you'd like to see demonstrated or have me attempt to demonstrate. Until next time, Red Wild out.